All right. So, what have you been working on?
Oh my gosh, what haven't I been working on, Teresa? So I have so many different things. Um, I go from like watercolor and graphite, and then I go back to my oil painting. So right now I'm teaching a lot of watercolor classes. So I'm focusing on that mainly right now.
Is
Um,
it hard for you to switch up between mediums?
well, I kind of get bored, so when I get bored with one thing, I got to switch it up. But if I know I have classes, like you have classes coming up, you, you, at least I tend to focus on what I'm going to teach, and I incorporate that in, yeah, in what I'm going to work on that week. So whatever I'm teaching in that class. So a couple weeks ago, we were going to do eyes, watercolor, and painting the eyes. So I did like 5 million watercolor eyes.
Oh, wow.
And then and then I decided, well, I'm gonna do a portrait. And today I just started putting the actual eyes in. So,
That's
but
cool.
I don't know how. I know you, when you do your classes, you incorporate the class into one of your larger pieces, or at least you have in the past.
Yeah. So, there's this phenomenon I realized with in-person classes, and I don't know if you've noticed this, but it seems like portraiture and figure drawing, and then still life, and I'm sure landscape, but I don't really do a lot of landscape classes. Um, I would like to get into that at some point, but it seems like those are the ones that always fill up. And then it seems like the minute you try to do something like painting ducks or something, it's like it's just very hard, and you hear crickets. And so what I started to do was when it was an online class, I felt like I had the freedom to do more specific things. So I have classes like painting sharks, and then I have one called painting swans and tulips coming up. And it's all about like composition and color value, and things that are applicable to more than just like sharks or swans. But I just feel like with the online class, it's the opposite from real life. So you can't repeat the same thing more than like twice, because it just especially since it's available as a recording, it's just kind of like is a bit weird to do the same class
Oh, right, right.
over.
Yes.
So I have like portrait painting and portrait drawing, but I just do them once a year, because otherwise it's just too much to repeat. And so for the online, I mean, so yeah, I've been getting to very like exotic, more niche topics for the online. And because it's just me advertising it and it's all through my website, I don't need that many people signed up to make it worthwhile. So there's not a problem. And they don't cancel or whatever. And so there's no feeling like, oh, it has to be a really like broad topic that everyone will sign up for.
Right. Um, yeah, the eyes thing, that was a request. They wanted to learn um to do eyes, and I'm like, okay. So, then you want to teach them the right way. So then I had to go back and remember everything that I learned. I don't know if that's how you do it, like, or do you just take photos and you find something really unique and you focus on that? I know you do a lot of photography.
Yeah. Yeah, like I just went and did a bunch of magnolia photographs, because it's like a once in a year phenomenon. In DC we have a lot of nice gardens.
Right.
So I was out doing that all day on Friday, and it was really nice. And then I went in to see the museums too, and I got like a nice lunch and a nice tea. And yeah, the eye thing, it sounds like that sounds pretty adjacent to portraiture. It's like you're zooming in on a portrait. I've seen people do ear classes or mouth, and that
Yes.
works pretty easily. Um, that's one of the reasons I'm interested in doing flower classes, because uh, there's so many different species, so it kind of feels like the same thing where it's like you could just farm out the features of the face and keep doing infinite classes about that.
Yeah.
Like there's people who like their whole career is like teaching portrait art, so like you never run out of that. Everyone's unique. Um, and I feel like the same with flowers, like you can never run out of flower species to study. And so yeah, I
It's
like
it's so funny because when I started learning portraiture and I went to Studio Incaminati, I had no desire to do flowers
that. Mm,
at all. I don't even know why. And my mother always said to me when I was doing portraiture, you should do flowers. I love flowers. Because my mother and my grandmother were big on wildflowers
mm.
and learning wildflower names. And they had wildflowers in their gardens. And I'm like, Mom, I'm going to school for portraiture. That's what I wanted to do. But then I ended up painting flowers every day, all day. So it's just funny. And now I'm doing a portrait with flowers in her
Yeah,
hair.
I
It's
feel like
just,
all paintings need portraits. I mean, all portraits need flowers, and all
yeah.
better could do with some flowers.
Well, then when I saw your work, I'm like, this is perfect because you had all the flowers in with your portraits. So,
There,
what do you think? Why did you get into flower painting? Or,
I remember, like I think like most young people do, um, the flowers are kind of seen as too sentimental or too easy, and when you get into reading about mythology or botany or fairy tales, uh,
yes,
or like paleobotany, you're like, oh, flowers were there were flowers like camellias that evolved before pollinators. So they had to rely on like bees, and that's why they're shaped a certain way. Not bees, I'm sorry, beetles. And that's why they're shaped a certain way. And it's like, oh, that's really fascinating. And then um, I also got into gardening as a sort of relaxing pastime. So then it's fun because you get to read about flowers and bulbs and seeds and propagating them. And um, it's just really fun. So, but there's a lot of like, a lot of the mythologies have their, I'm not sure what phase it is. It's like the early primitive phases of all cultures. There's a lot of dark fairy tales or mythologies about um it's not the hunter gatherers, it's the agricultural people. So like the early farmers, they always have very dark stories about they sacrifice someone who has like godlike, who maybe someone who came from a fruit or something, and then
right,
kill them and dismember them and put them in the ground, and then corn is created, or like it depending on part of the world, like could be coconuts are created, or like this is how we got our main crop, and it's like really dark stuff. um I got kind of interested in that. I was reading a lot of the Joseph Campbell primitive mythology books last year.
well, and I do think, I mean, people were very attuned to agriculture because if you were not watching the weather and looking at what was happening, I mean, you have droughts and you know no grocery stores, so you had to be in tune with all that.
Hmm.
And I guess they were trying to figure out like why certain things happened,
Yeah,
um, coming up with these stories and these fables,
yeah,
why things happened at certain times of the year.
yeah. It was
So
interesting because a lot of the agrarian societies were more violent than the hunters, because the hunters, they were almost afraid of the animals they killed. Like they were afraid, they saw so much blood, and hunting was dangerous, that when they finally killed whatever it was, like the mammoth or the elk or whatever, they were like trying to propitiate its spirit, and they'd sort of, that they'd had enough of it, of the violence.
right.
Supposedly the peaceful vegetarians, it wasn't quite the same.
Oh,
So,
that's funny. I had never heard that.
Yeah, I'd always heard the opposite too. Yeah. Um, but anyway, so then there was like a darkness about the flowers, I thought, and I like nature and evolution, but it's rather dark as well. And so I spent a lot of time visiting like natural history museums as well as art museums and botanical gardens, and so I just get the inspiration from those visits, and I think over time that just kind of built up more respect for flowers, and they're not just kind of sentimental, but there is a sentimentality to them as well, and um, it's like their beauty makes up for the harshness of nature or something a little bit.
Well, and I think like on some level, I mean, they're medicinal as well. You
Yeah.
know, some of them are medicinal, but I just find, you know, you see them in art, you know, when you go to the museums, you see them in all kinds of murals and with women, and you know, they have certain meanings that the artists I don't know if they're hidden meaning or whatever, but the artists are trying to convey in the theme of their painting.
Mhm.
So I just, well, just anyway, I never thought I was ever going to be painting flowers all the time. Um,
Well,
you
this is
know,
also
but
a side note, but you were probably raised on Impressionism. Am I right?
yes.
So they
Hmm.
didn't paint flowers very well. I know that sounds sacrilegious, but I believe some of the best flower painters were more like the uh, the Dutch Golden Age, uh,
Yes.
or even like the pre-French Revolutionary artists like um, André or Coster, or then there was like 19th century like Fantin Latour
Yes. Beautiful.
and then like Cezanne just doesn't quite cut it with the flowers. Like
No,
it's good,
there,
but it's not enough to like be like, oh, I'm sold on flowers. So I think that we might have just seen a lot of like mediocre flower paintings done
yeah,
by
like
famous people.
they're just like pinwheels almost in the impressionism.
Like
They're
Monet is great, but I
mhm.
think you have to be kind of mature to appreciate the water lilies and realize when
Yes.
in that garden when you're a kid, it just kind of looks messy, to be honest.
Well, I went to oh, Musée d'Orange, and there's huge murals of Monet's water lilies, and really they're not extremely impressive. I
Oh,
mean, the size of them are the size, but they're kind of like you really have to look at them carefully.
yeah.
Otherwise, you just run through there.
Oh, I saw them mostly on postcards as a kid, and they were charming. And later, I was reading the Mad Enchantment, a biography of him in his later years, and I
Mm.
learned that he's practically like legally blind when he starts doing those, and then he has a cataract surgery, which was dangerous at the time, and then he can see a little better after that. But um, so when you realize that story, then it's like they're more powerful from a sense of someone creating beauty and living a long life and working through adversity. You know what I mean? And that's you have to be more
Right.
to appreciate that. Um, but yeah, it's like it's not the best painting of a water lily. Yeah, if you just zoom in on one of them for sure. I mean, I really like them, but yeah, to my point about being raised on that, I could see why you would be more interested in like um, I don't know. I think George O'Keeffe or Frida Kahlo were the other allowed books.
Oh, right. Yes.
Good.
And they've certainly have taken, you know, those two women artists and just like made tons of money off of
Oh, yeah.
and you know, wealth off of that.
Yeah. It's interesting because George O'Keeffe, she was making a lot of money during her lifetime, but Frida
Hmm.
Kahlo wasn't. So yeah, it is interesting how that plays out because George O'Keeffe kind of got to um, live her own life in her later years after Stieglitz died, and she had like at least two
Hmm.
studios in the desert, right? And
Yeah.
I was watching a documentary about him, and it sounded amazing. living on her own terms and um, not really worrying about money and
Well,
fame. She had all that ready.
and I think that's why she, if you see her and the way she dressed,
Hmm.
in that type of garb that she always wore, it was almost like a, I don't know, a masculine look to her, even though her paintings were so bright and beautiful, but she wore really dark stuff.
I read in one of the biographies that she kind of added to her own blindness. She used to go up on the roof and stare at the sun,
Oh,
her eyes
wow.
wide open. Yeah, so she went blind in her later years, kind of like Monet, Monet, sorry, but wasn't able to reverse it. Sad.
Wow. I did not hear that. It is. There's a lot of tragedy in
Yeah.
uh in the art world, I believe. I think, maybe that makes for a good artist. I don't know.
Well,
Or
let's talk about.
maybe
Oh, go for
go
it.
ahead.
Go for it. Oh, I was just gonna say when you're done with that thought, I wanted to ask you about your Isabella Stewart Gardner and when you thought about her,
Yes.
because she's an example of someone who didn't make art, but she like you could tell her collecting and being a patron was her art form, and that's another powerful way of sort of making art. And I was curious what you thought about that, the vision.
Oh my gosh. Um, I cannot that museum is just incredible. And the things that are in there, she just knew everybody in the art world and musicians and um she amassed such a collection, not just art, but letters from kings and queens to each other and Napoleon. It's incredible what she has in there. And um, oh my gosh, just sculpture. And it's amazing.
Yeah,
Um,
I feel like
the,
we need a collector like that in the modern world, like
yeah,
someone who's not afraid to show that they love beauty and art, and but is also like connecting artists to patrons and not charging exorbitant commission referrals or whatever. Like didn't she have like sergeant people over and they were just like painting in that gothic room in her museum, the one with like the church door.
right. Well,
Um
they just like hung out together,
yeah.
and they were good friends and they wrote letters back and forth to each other. She has them all in the cases there, which is really it's kind of sad because the letters are starting to deteriorate.
Oh
Um, and they do keep them in the dark cases. But she, and Teresa, I think a lot of it has to do with um, technology and because I don't know. We don't have like a lot of people coming over or, like we're hanging out now, which this is a great part of technology, which I think we should do more of, especially artists. But like getting together with other artists, that's like a luxury,
yes.
you
Yeah, it
know.
is. I mean, and things are so expensive now. Um, Even myself, I've become more of a homebody, and maybe that's why I'm gardening more as well.
Right.
um, but I mean, part of it is a good thing because I had a period of traveling a lot, and I would like to get back to that, but it does take your time up from painting,
Yeah.
and so I'm kind of like, well, maybe this is a good thing that I'm more sort of studio bound because I'm getting good, or at least I hope I'm going to be getting good artwork done, and not like traveling 5 months out of the year or something all over Europe. And but
But yeah, I think it's like that ebb and flow is really good, especially as an artist. I
yeah,
think you need to get out there and I just wrote a piece for the Portrait Society on the importance of artists who travel, like their traveling experience really informs
yeah,
their artistry, I think.
absolutely. I'm so glad I traveled when I did, and
Yeah.
I'm sure I will get back to it more. I just feel like I'm processing it all at the moment.
See that, and I think that's a good thing. I think it's good to travel and take it all in and not necessarily, you know, be painting the whole time you're traveling, but just be able to enjoy traveling for travel's sake and, you know, maybe meet other artists and then come home and think about it all and think about how you might want to put it in your artwork or,
Mhm. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, and it,
I do think that things were expensive back then too. I just think that the level of patronage that those artists had was something above and beyond that maybe would be hard for us to imagine, you know? Um,
well, and I think the arts were revered more.
yeah.
Um, I just know, like in this little town I live in, they have um, lots of sports. Like the kids are always going to sports, which is great. I think sports are really really good. But the
Gives you
art
that life is
program,
tough when you have to suffer and work hard, right?
yeah,
That's the true meaning of sports.
yeah, yeah,
Like the comfort kills and you have
yeah,
to know what suffering is. And if you haven't been pushed as a child, you'll avoid suffering as an adult, and that's more dangerous than
yeah,
enduring pain. That's what I realized. Like that it wasn't about becoming like the best runner or something. It was like developing a healthy lifestyle and sure teamwork and
yes,
stuff, and learning to lose um and
right,
becoming someone with character is what I think that's for.
yeah.
And sometimes it gets overdone and it becomes like an identity, and it's not.
Well, and a lot of money is spent on sports, but I feel like the arts really suffer um, in some regards in at least the public schools. And,
Oh yes.
you know, I just wish there was a little bit more emphasis on art um,
Yeah, me too.
because I think a lot of families don't, you know, a lot of people don't go to art museums unless there happens to be like some event or some
uh
kids event or something. And I think it would be so great, like you were talking about the Gardner Museum and all of that. She had people over her house all the time that were artists and loved the arts and loved music. And, but, yeah, I think we kind of lost a little of that. And I don't know how to get that back, but
yeah.
art can be so healing, you know, and
I like to joke sometimes because people say like we're in a new gilded age, um, and I say yeah, but it's without the aesthetics of the last one.
that's right. That's
We should
true.
have
That's a good one. I like it. I like it. That's true.
yeah. There's a architecture
Yes,
there's a account I follow on Instagram, and it's like, why is architecture ugly? Like, why is there a war on beauty?
that's
And
right.
people think some of it has to do with uh, making the human spirit wilt um, by sort of like killing the ability or the joy or the ease of finding art. And I love modern museums like that have old masters are my favorite ones, but I do feel like there needs to be more with modern masters, like because when Sargent or Isabella Stewart Gardner was they would go to a salon or an exhibition, they were looking at contemporary art where the paint had barely dried, and despite the fact that we have a lot of great artists today, they just don't seem to end up in the public museums that much, and so you're seeing stuff that's like cracking and it's been restored 100 years old
That's
or
right.
so that's a little bit of a disjointed thing. I think that can make it hard for people to connect to the art unless they've fallen in love with that time period. And
Right.
I think now the young people have a term. It's dark academia. I think that's the aesthetic. Um, have you ever read the book The Secret History by Donna Tartt?
No, I don't think I have.
It's this is the kind of art we're talking about. I think it would fit in dark academia. That would be the word now.
Wow.
So it's like it's a niche interest. It's not society's interest in general, right? And at one time it was society's interest, and it's probably
Yes.
that's what I'm trying to get at. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's fine. Like I understand that, and um, but yeah, I love the craftsmanship, and I love I also have been studying William Morris, and I think it was called the arts and crafts movement.
Yeah.
And he was very concerned that people were being moved into de-skilled jobs and living very sad lives without beauty in cities, and um, not owning anything or not feeling, yeah, like the human spirit wilting. So he's like, let's get people and teach them how to weave tapestries and do stained glass. And um, a lot of people know him for like the wallpapers. You still see
Yeah.
those.
Hmm.
Like he wasn't just reviving old types of art. Like a lot of the designs come from Gothic illuminated manuscripts from
Yeah.
around like 10th century, or even like Turkish and Islamic tiles and Indian art. All the old stuff. Like he kind of brought it back, but he wasn't just doing it to bring back an old aesthetic. He was trying to give dignity to the modern Englishman and woman. So that,
Well, the Barnes Museum in Philadelphia, before they, you know, made it into a museum, when it was in his house, um, he was holding classes there
mm,
because he wanted people
William
to,
Morris.
the Barnes in
Yeah.
Philadelphia.
Barnes was giving classes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Barnes was hiring people to give classes in the arts to workers that
Mhm.
worked in factories and things like that because he wanted people to appreciate the arts.
Yeah.
And he felt like, that was an important aspect that we were losing. And
Yeah.
he was right, um, we, and I feel like we have, like, I feel like more people are coming to take art classes, but they want, at least in my what I'm doing, but they want immediacy. Like they
Yeah.
want their work to be perfect the first go round. Um,
Yeah.
and I'm always saying, well, you have to manage your expectations. You're
Craft.
not a computer.
Yeah.
It's not computer generated. Um,
You're an instrument that's being trained or
yeah,
shaped, and that could take years. Which goes back to the point about there should be better public art school training, because
yeah,
if you had some exposure as a young adult or a child, then it's going to be easier for you to pick it back up later. Yeah.
right. And I had some great art teachers when I was growing up.
Mhm.
But now, at least in the public school, I don't know, but it's a 40-minute time period for art and you get
Right.
it once a week,
Yep.
in most schools. And I don't think that's enough. And
Yeah, unless it's like an after school program where you can go every day, kind of like you do with football or something.
yeah,
It's not going
hmm,
to work, isn't it? Yeah. And in my experience, the art was the first thing to be cut when there was a field trip or something. It
yeah,
was You wouldn't have an art class for 2 months sometimes.
that's right.
That
And
was
I
no.
just, unless the child or the parents really revere it, and, it kind of goes by the wayside. Um,
I mean, I'm kind of the opinion that it. I do believe in like, and I realize that this is something that not all parents can afford, but sending or taking your children to a local artist and just having them take unstructured private lessons or group lessons
hmm,
is
hmm,
probably one of the best ways. And that really depends. Like you have to have a local artist, but most places have one, and
yeah,
most artists want tuition money, and then it strengthens the community. So that's a pretty good system, you know,
Yeah,
and so
definitely.
I think that that probably is that's how it was done in the old days, you know,
Yeah,
expecting the public school to do everything. I don't know, but definitely if they're supposed to be, they should be doing a better job, I would say.
yeah.
Maybe a bit of
And
both.
I feel like art and music, it's like a mind switch. Like you're doing math and writing and all of these um, you know, very necessary learning skills. But I feel like in the middle of the day, if you get to go to art and music, it gives your brain like a switch that it needs from all the structured academics.
Mhm.
Yeah. I wouldn't let my daughter stop art or band when she got to high school. I said you had to keep taking it.
Mhm.
But she loved it. So
Yeah.
I don't know. So, but it's getting back again to I feel like getting together and talking about art is so important. The doing is important, but talking about it is also important.
Yeah. Yeah, there's few people to talk to about it. Have you heard this aphorism where let's say you go to a dinner party with a bunch of your art friends and there's just one person who's not an artist, the conversation will naturally not be about art.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yep.
so it has to be something where every single person is like in the group.
Yep.
Um, yeah, that is fascinating. And I do like to go out to the museums with other artists for that reason.
Yeah.
And I often don't like going with non-artists because the same reason.
Well, I feel like I'm hustled through
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
because they want to get to like the fun area or the eating area or I don't know. I don't know. They just I
I think it's
guess
like it's too hard to concentrate that long on
it
art.
is. It
So as
is.
artists, we go and we learn. We look at the artwork, and then whether it's conscious or not, we're like studying it. And then when we go home, it infects our studio practice, and that's sort of
Yes.
the museums. And that was
Yeah.
supposedly why the first ones were created, like the Victorian Albert
Oh,
was
really?
for other artists. Yeah, the England wanted like amid the arts and crafts movement, they wanted to be the best at the World's Fair, and so they were studying older art and trying to bring it um, to the craftsmen, so the craftsmen should would excel at pottery and painting and metalwork and everything. And I think that's one of the reasons why like a lot of old art has this continuity to it because they were constantly trying to like not forget or bring back the past.
Wow, I did not know that.
Um,
That's interesting.
yeah. Supposedly the salons, which were where the common people would go or the public, those were supposed to be more of like a peanut gallery thing where people were like, you know, almost like watching a soap opera. They were like maybe jeering at some of the paintings or
Yes.
like
And
something,
they
which I believe
stack.
is good. They can do
I
that.
think, I think they were there just to be seen. A lot of those people,
Yeah,
you know, oh,
yeah.
look at me.
I
Here I
wish
am.
when we have a new opening at the National Gallery, I like it because there's that feeling. There's a lot of people who are there, and they're not all artists. Some are, but a
Yeah.
lot of them aren't. And there is that similar atmosphere where you can hear people talking loudly about the art and their opinion, and it's really fun to overhear or to like join in.
Well,
That's yeah.
the,
Um.
um, the Mona Lisa at the Louvre, people just want to take a selfie.
Oh yeah.
They just want to get up there and get their selfie and then they go, then they move on. It's,
There's a great um. Let me see if I can bring this up. Let me see if I can try something.
yeah. So when we went to see the Mona Lisa, there was just swarms of people around it. And we were there early in the morning and there was about, I want to say 8 security guards up there around it. I did get semi close, but most people just wanted to take selfies. So I don't even know what they were seeing really, but I mean, there was a few art people in the crowd, but you know,
They wanted to prove that they'd been to the Louvre,
that's right.
and
And
I guess you get like social credit for being at the.
that's right. But there, it was in a room with other phenomenal paintings. Um, it wasn't, jammed up like I thought it was going to be, but we were there pretty early as well. So it's like, the Louvre. I went twice in the week and a half that I was in Paris. Um, it was the second time I went, there was some kind of like break, like spring break or something going on. And people were just like, kids were just running around all over and like running and sliding in the
Oh,
main.
it is like a big maze, like a playground maze.
And
Um,
I was like, I was trying to look at oh, I can't remember the headless winged statue, not Nike. It's 18 feet high. I
mm,
was trying to look at that, but there
the,
were
the
kids. Yeah,
Victory of Samoth race.
yeah. There was kids just running around everywhere. The second time I went, I got lost from my group, of course. But yeah, you really have to know where you're going in there, and know the paintings that you really want to look at, and make a
I look at
point.
everything. So I get there as soon as I can, and I usually spend like 2 or 3 days.
Mhm.
And this is funny, but my biggest problem is food. So you get in there and you've been waiting in line for like an hour, so you don't want to leave.
Yeah.
And then like the only cafe, uh,
Yes.
except for the really fancy one, which I don't mind, but like it's like there's nowhere to sit. So you
No.
get food and there's nowhere to sit. So it's like you get in there and then you want to like focus on the art. And I like to read every plaque and like look up stuff and contemplate. But when you're hungry or thirsty, you can't focus and
No.
battle with like your bodily needs and then the spiritual needs or whatever. It's really funny, and I kind of associate it with the similar phenomenon. So I call this the March of Death, but it's a joke. But in DC, we have the tidal basin of cherry blossoms, and for the last few years, I go and I have to like go around and look and photograph every single one for like painting reference.
Yeah.
And I get really obsessed with it, and like I'm trying to capture the light, and and I start getting really dehydrated, and like the sun's
Yeah.
on, and it's like a joke, but it's like I have to look at every single tree because it's a beautiful work of art, and I'm only going to see it once a year. And I feel like that with the Louvre, like I feel like it's this March of Death thing where it's oh, I'm only here like once every 5 years or something. I need to, and then you're getting like tired. It's really funny.
Well, the first day I went, we did. We saw, like, we just walked around, looked at everything, right? But then I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't see this, or I didn't. So the next time we went, a couple days later, that's when the crowds came.
Mm.
So we, made sure that we got to whatever we wanted to. But it's funny because you're right about the cafe and the food. There's nowhere to sit up there.
It's by
Like,
design to get you to leave.
and you can't get in the bathroom, and you're like, I, and I was wearing like I was wearing boots, but you got to sit down sometime.
Yeah. So I'm not trying
So
to complain about the Louvre. I think it's amazing. But like if you were at the National Gallery in Washington, D.C. or in London, they have wonderful cafes that usually always have enough seating. And if they don't, they have like a secondary offshoot cafe or two. But I guess they're just not as famous as the Louvre. That must be what it is. But
well, the food was good. I mean, I had good food, but yeah, there was nowhere to sit. That was crazy, and we were there early. Anyway, I mean, the lines and you know
Oh,
It was wild.
what I like about the Louvre is that they have so many rooms that they can't keep them all open at the same time, so they have to change security guards. So sometimes like a room is just closed that day, and you
Yeah.
go back. So I got it's like a maze where the hedges move because I got stuck in the downstairs Egyptian section, and the way I'd come in, I guess they blocked it off, and I just couldn't find the way out. And I think they'd done it so that you had to just leave through the exit. And I didn't want to be down there after a while. It was like too many sarcophagi, and
Yeah.
I feeling like I wanted to get up and see more like European paintings, and I just couldn't find the exit, and it was um, almost like a little panic inducing. It was interesting.
Yeah. Oh, I couldn't find my group. And they were like, "Oh, we're just right over I don't know what room." I'm like, you don't understand. I don't know where how to get there." I don't
Yeah.
like room in it. But I ended up just finishing the day like seeing what I wanted to see because I couldn't find them and ended up having to go outside and meet them at some cafe out there.
Mhm.
But that was fine.
I
But
think
it
you
it
enjoy
it
getting lost in an art museum because once you know the way around, it's like almost not as fun anymore.
yeah, true. It's
You
definitely true.
turn a corner and you don't know what you're going to see. It's like a really wonderful, joyful thing. Um, what's your opinion on the Barnes? Like, I think it has. Isn't there some kind of group that hates Renoir?
Yeah,
It's like a
yes.
joke group, and then they have like one of Vincent Van Gogh's only nudes. But the Barnes seem to have like a very interesting collecting sort of approach. Like it seemed to pick like is it awkward art or slightly like I guess very
Well,
avant.
I think that he wanted to just amass this collection. Um, and he was focused on impressionism mainly, but it's in arts mixed in with like hinges, like what like beautiful hinges from a
Yeah,
time long ago.
I love the
But
museum.
right, but the way they are arranged is a kind of a mystery. Um,
And you can't change it. Like that's it's like the gardener. It's
right, and the
with
gardener has you're not. She didn't want any labels on anything. Isabel, she did not. So you've got to kind of look at your phone, which is kind of distracting because they do like they give you the picture on your phone and each painting is numbered and then you can read about it on your phone.
yeah.
Now, I haven't been to the Barnes, I want to say in the last 4 years, but it seems to be that's the same situation there. He never wanted um, the collection to move from his home.
Yeah, I heard that. I never saw the original location, so I can't judge the new one. I do like the new one a lot. It's a beautiful museum.
It
I've only
is. It is beautiful. And I haven't been. I was not to the other one either. But yeah, there's the school that I went to in Studio Caminati. They are not a fan of Renoir or any of the Impressionism. So we never really went there on
Mhm.
any trips or like to see any art or anything.
What do you think it
So
is that people have against that kind of impressionism? I'm not trying to defend it or anything. I'm curious because I've heard that as well. And do you think it's that like I alluded to earlier, like when I was younger, they only showed us impressionism, so we never actually saw the real 19th century and early 20th century. There was like this coup to just hide our history from us. Um, and only like a few artists like John Singer Sargent made it through or something. And I don't know if that's why people dislike impressionism or is it because it's like realism but not quite good enough realism. What do you think it is?
I from what I understand, they believe like Renoir was not technically s- studied enough or savvy enough
Yeah,
to be on the same level as a John Singer Sargent.
yeah.
Um,
Which is funny because and I haven't studied the Impressionists too much, but I think a lot of them were art school dropouts. So it makes sense that an art school would dislike an art school dropout, especially an academic atelier dropout.
right, right. And they want to promote their the way they do things. So, they're not going to. I get, and Renoir, he does that like black pupil eyeball a lot.
I don't know lack that closely.
Oh, black. No,
Oh, black,
Renoir.
black. Yes.
No,
Yeah,
Re-
it's like is it like a French eye or something?
yes,
Yeah,
yes, yeah,
it's
and
interesting.
or those super rosy cheeks. You
Yeah,
know, um, high key backgrounds and things like that. They You weren't even allowed to talk about it at the school. So, I didn't ever go to the barns and really look that carefully at everything um, until later.
hmm.
So, and the barns was being renovated for a while. So, you know, we would go to the Rodin.
Yeah, that's nice.
Um, yeah.
I actually don't go to the PAFA enough. I haven't been there for years.
Well, they don't have an art program anymore.
Right. A lot of our programs are disappearing.
Yeah. I mean, they have the evening studies
Mhm.
um, and the adult classes, but they got rid of their program, and that was one that I looked at. Um, Not cheap, expensive. A lot of people that I studied with did go there. My uncle went there before it was accredited for sculpture. Um, but what room is it, Teresa? They have the David. They have like a full size David.
I forgot that they had that. It's been so long. I
Yeah.
went. No.
Yeah. I went on a tour there one time and we walked through I guess it's the cast room. That's it. The
Oh,
cast room. Yeah.
it's funny. I see the David in unexpected places. They have one in this park in an area of Mexico City called Roma Norte. It's a big bronze David in a fountain. And then they have one in the Ringling Museum. And I guess now I didn't know that they have one in PAFA. So,
Well, I'll give you another one. So when I was living in St. Augustine, the Ripley's Believe It or Not has a full size David out in front of the museum, and they have like huge hedge around it. You got to go into the hedge to see.
oh, I
You
like
got to go
that.
into the hedge to see it, but then you're too close,
Yeah.
because it's so large.
Oh, that's interesting.
Oh man. And then there's like a little plaque, talks don't bring your kids in.
Oh, you're making me nostalgic for sculpture gardens. As much as I like painting, I love sculpture and nature. That's a really nice combination. I almost don't mind that they hide it. Oh, I see. They hid it for the nudity. That makes sense.
Yes, for the nudity.
Um,
Yeah. They put a huge shrub. It was like a parking lot in the museum, and then the David with this ginormous hedge around it.
yeah,
Yeah. So
I'm
funny.
gonna have that problem soon with social media because I know that they flag your account if you post artistic painted nudity.
You have to put
Uh,
little
I refuse.
X's over the
I refuse.
areas.
I'll just keep it on my website, but I've been
Yeah.
paintings lately, so that's going to become an issue again.
Were you ever flagged?
I think you just get suppressed.
Oh,
Yeah, that's what happens.
well, that's not good either.
Yeah, exactly. Um,
Well, I posted. There's one figure model that is comes to the the drawing class that I go to. I mean, he has a whole account and he posts his stuff all the time from different schools that he models at. I'm wondering if I know that they took his account down for a while and he had to create a new one.
Yeah. Oh,
Wow. That's
yeah.
crazy.
Well, we'll see what YouTube's policy is to nude paintings because I'm going to be posting more of my art on YouTube. So we'll see what happens.
Oh, well, you're going to have to let me know. That's good. That's interesting. Yeah, there's one exhibit. They contacted me to put artwork in their exhibit, and it's only only the nude. So like all the artwork in there has to be of nudes.
Mhm.
I'm wondering how they're going to advertise that,
Mm.
how that's going to go.
Yeah.
So,
I see that you have is it a delphinium on your table?
you know what? Yes, I do. And I was trying to remember the name of it before we went on. I always forget the name of it.
Well, I know because I've been trying to grow them with no success. So I have seed packets with that picture on it. Um, but
So
I'm just,
this one is dried.
yeah.
Um, and I got it at Produce Junction.
Mhm.
Um, I was shocked that they had them. And I got it because I was teaching a
Oh,
drawing class and
yeah.
we were going to do that. And the woman there, she knew what it was. I couldn't remember the name of it again.
You know,
But
one of the reasons that they don't sell them is that they might be poisonous.
oh, great. That's
So,
good.
so the foxglove and lupine
Yeah.
are similar. The tall ones that look really nice, they're all you want to watch out for, like the seeds, or like if you touch them, don't rub your face or your eyes or something. They
Good
can
to
be,
know.
yeah.
Well, and
That's probably why you don't see them in stores because they don't want the liability of someone complaining about that.
well, I just heard the other day that my daughter was telling me about that daffodils can be toxic to animals. And I'm
Oh,
like,
maybe
I
like
know
mildly irritating if they eat the.
if they eat it, but like,
Yeah, but I don't think it's the same risk as the others.
yeah,
Yeah, because they're often sold as being deer resistant, but deer will still eat them. So it's like you want them to be poisonous, but they're not enough. That's usually the situation, I think, for gardeners.
I feel like deer will eat everything. Oh, I take that back. I don't think they like marigold.
Oh.
Now I know that some people put lime on around their flowers because the deer don't like the lime, like the powdered lime that you, not like the fruit lime.
Mhm.
But I
Um,
don't know if that's true or not.
I'm
We have
getting into a bone painting phase, so I went on a walk looking for deer to film in the snow a few weeks back, and one day I got really lucky and I was following a bunch of deer and getting great photographs. And then the next day I couldn't find them, but I found a deer skull. And then I've been looking out and I found another like deer carcass,
yeah,
partially eaten, but like there's a couple things there, but no head. So I don't know. I'm thinking I might start doing the animal bone thing.
yeah.
I have a few bones that I've bought or collected, but I feel like it's more fun if you find them. There's something cool about that.
I have a lot of antlers,
Yeah, me
deer
too.
deer antlers, and I have this. Can you
Like,
say it?
what is it?
It's a horse's tooth.
Oh, nice. I like horses. Yeah.
I don't know why it's sitting there. I, it used to belong to my uncle. He had a lot of bones and things that he would, because he did wildlife sculpture in
Mhm.
bronze, and he
Ooh.
would do like elk horns interlocked. Yeah. So I have inherited a lot of that kind of stuff.
So back to France, but it's the D'Orsay. They have these. Did you see this room in the back? I believe it's Courbet, and they have these horrifying giant paintings. Like they're probably 9 feet wide, and it's just a dark woods. And there's like two deer with their or elk or whatever with their horns interlocked, and they kind of like they were fighting, and then they just got stuck, and then they got tired, and you know how they find the skeletons sometimes with the antlers
Yeah.
still. Yeah, it's like that kind of a situation, and then there's another one that
Wow.
deer just screaming into the wilderness, and it's kind of scary looking.
No, I did not see that. But when we were there, it was a madhouse. So maybe, I
I
don't
know what
know.
you mean. I went maybe almost 2 years ago now in spring, and I didn't go there because there was a lot of stuff I wanted to see, but I was like, oh, it looks really crowded. I don't want to wait in that line. So I've been a lot of times, but I didn't go last time either. It does seem like tourism is way up from when I was an art student.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, and so many people shopping.
Shopping,
Oh, wow. The
like
stores, like I was not going there to shop, but the stores were really busy
interesting.
when we were there. So, and that didn't happen. Like it, they had the Olympics there, and it was like they said they did not get the tourism they thought they were going to get from the Olympics. That a
Hmm.
lot of people came after the Olympics.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I don't know.
Interesting.
Don't know. Yeah. But so I have a few pieces in like local exhibits. Like there's a hospital show, and then there's like, like, little community arts things, and there's a coffee house near us that they have an exhibit all the time. And you don't sell anything, and people say, well, why do you put it in if you're not going to sell it? And I said, if I don't put it in, it's just going to sit in my studio. And
Mhm.
what's the point of that? You
Yeah,
know, of it just sitting here collecting dust in my studio, you
yeah.
know.
Well, that's one of the reasons I want to start my YouTube channel um post more frequently because I think I can use the paintings as give them a like a platform on YouTube. Um kind of like people do now on Instagram and TikTok, but it seems like those platforms are so valuing like 7-second posts that
Yeah.
I feel like I need longer. So I just made a video that was 30 minutes about a few paintings, and I'm going to do more of those. So I think with the internet, like I could see a reason for keeping them in the studio, but still like making videos about them, and then eventually getting them placed somewhere in a collection or a home. Um, so that's one idea I have, but yeah, I think you're right. Like getting things exhibited is the way to go. And
Yeah, because like a lot of people say to me, oh, that seems like a lot of work. Um, you got to take it, you got to drop it off. And I said, but still, why do I do this? Like, why am I doing this?
mhm.
Why am I painting every day? And um, if no one's going to see it, that's just my thought of it. Like, I just think that it needs to be seen.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
maybe, it'll inspire somebody else to get their artwork out, or start doing something with art, or,
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
you know,
Like the internet is a great resource, and it's good for pointing you places, but there has to be some catalyst.
Yeah.
And I don't think that if you're not already like steeped in the art world, you're probably not going to get shown quality art just by searching art, on the internet.
Well, and I do have some people, some friends that they sell really well off of their websites.
Yeah.
I'm not one of them. If I have an in-person show, I do so much better
Mhm.
because I feel like um, to they want to interact with the artist.
Yeah. Um, what sort of price point are they selling their work off the website? And is it entirely like sight unseen, or are you sure they're not having shows too? Oh, Sharon, you're on mute.
Sorry, I'm back.
Yeah.
My
So,
hair.
yeah.
I dropped my earpiece. Anyway,
Oh, no
um,
problem.
so they cut their prices, like they'll have a sale
Yeah.
and then they'll sell a bunch of paintings.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
and I just know I do really much better in person shows.
Yeah.
When I get to talk to, like when they have a reception and I get to talk to people, it's so much better.
Yeah. I agree.
At least for me. I don't know.
I
Because
think
I don't have
um,
a internet following either that, I mean, you have a more of a following than I do. Um,
it
and
comes from
people,
doing in-person shows, though. Like there was a time when I was doing a lot more traveling and in-person exhibits. So
true.
probably get back at that. But yeah, at least for me, it's never just been because of the internet. It's always been because of doing things in real life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
And a lot of times with humble beginnings, like starting at a library or a fair, like the county fair or something, um, way back in the day. So I think that those things are definitely important. Mm.
Yeah, I believe that that's like, plus the people actually see the size of your art and can appreciate more what goes into it when they see it live in person.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think also if you are personable and they get to meet you, that's going to be a very winning characteristic and a positive experience for them.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you can't hide in a corner at those things. You've got to really have conversations and mingle and make sure you get there. You know, if it's a group show.
Yeah. Maybe you should do a filmed artist talk when you do your next show at the coffee house.
Yeah,
That would be great because I think the real key is combining everything. And, a lot of I guess because we're talking about the 19th century, a lot of the artists that became famous, like Sarah Bernhardt or Pablo Picasso or Salvador Dali, they were using all the technology available. So they were touring and having real life performances or exhibitions, but then they were doing photographs and posters and I don't know what, radio,
right.
TV.
Yeah, I
Um,
almost feel you have
Mhm.
um, to get out there more. You can't hide in your studio all the time, even though I would love to.
Yeah.
Definitely would
Well,
love to.
that is a tricky thing about being the type of artist what we are. So you don't have assistants making your art for you, and
Oh,
uh,
right.
unless you have like a gallery doing all your PR, you kind of do have to come up with some kind of balance so that you're still making art, like
True.
quality art. So I kind of feel like that, you know, excuses maybe not getting out there as much. because you're like a single creator. So that at least I hope people understand that for
Yeah.
me. Yeah.
And there's one teacher I took from, and her work was beautiful, but she could not get herself to promote herself, or like if she had work in a gallery. I mean, there were some galleries she had openings. I didn't even know she had an opening
Oh,
until after it was over.
yeah.
Um, because she just wanted to do her art, and the gallery wasn't promoting her.
Mm,
So it's tough. It's a really hard balance.
yeah.
And especially if you're not someone who's um, gregarious or likes to talk about their work, or more of an introvert.
Mhm. Yeah, it's funny. I've sort of been not paying a ton of attention, but a little bit of attention to the 20th century artists, the like the abstract expressionists, and I guess like um, Andy Warhol or Jean Michel Basquiat or whatever, because it does feel like that's when the artist starts to become a personality, um, and maybe becomes like almost too much of a personality, but it seems to have worked for their careers really well. And I find that interesting because, yeah, coming from the sort of studio art atelier world, that's definitely not something we were taught to do.
No,
I always cringe a little when I post something. I'm like, oh, am I posting too much? Am I annoying people? How is this coming off? And I'm trying to just see it as um, because I can't really get behind Andy Warhol. I'm kind of more like I'm just trying to be like a craftsperson, like
yeah,
a baker. Like a baker's like, okay, this is what we've got today, in the
right.
shop.
That's
Get
right.
it while it's fresh, So I'm not thinking too much like Warhol, but this stuff's definitely something like on the periphery. I think about that balance.
Yeah, Andy Warhol really sold himself.
Um, I've heard interesting things though that like contradicting things. Like I heard or read that he made most of his money through illustration. So he would approach like there was this shoe store that he made a lot of like drawings. And back then people really wanted handmade illustrations. And his mother had this old Polish type of script. So she would collaborate with him and do a lot of the designs for the handwriting. And you can look them up. They look kind of like, like something a teenager would doodle or something. They're like
Yeah,
marker colored, and the shoes aren't particularly like descriptive.
right.
But apparently that made him a lot of money. And then I think he bought like a row house in New York somewhere, and he kind of set his mother up and him there. And then he decided to approach fine art, and that's what people know him for. It's the second half of his career. And this is the part that I'm not 100% on, but I think he got a lot of funding for the CIA
Oh,
as the Jackson Pollock, like they're the whole abstract expressionist movement was
yes, right, right.
funded by the CIA. So that is interesting. So he kind of, I don't, yeah, I think he was a great self promoter, but I think there was some like other undercurrents going on.
Yeah, it was a crazy time.
Yeah, um, it would be interesting to read more about it actually, but I think he'd already made it by the time he was doing his art, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
So what's next, Teresa? You have what coming up?
Um, well, I have a studio visit tomorrow, so I was cleaning my studio a lot.
Ooh,
Yeah, for
that's fun.
well, maybe I'll be showing in a gallery soon. I've been thinking I need to get back into that gallery world. Um, and then I'm doing a group show in Front Royal, Virginia, in I think April. And then I'm doing a show in Mexico City in October where I'm teaching
Nice.
flower and birds class. And then I've got my usual like online classes and then my usual travel workshops and some local ones. So I just try to stay busy and have a balance of things, but mostly I'm just trying to hide away in the studio,
Yeah.
paint, especially now with these art shows coming up. I feel like I need to have a lot of new work. Um,
You do have a lot of new work.
the piece I'm working on now, I actually started a while back, but I'm trying to finish everything that's in progress. So that's
So
I'll just finish
will
a lot of
that be
stuff.
in the show or no? Or do we
I
have to
don't
just
know. Yeah, we'll see what's done.
wait and see?
There'll be a couple shows coming up. Yeah. Um, so yeah, I'm excited about that, but I'm also excited about YouTube. I feel like that could be a good way to get art out. Um, since people are on their phones so much. And
Yeah,
it's
I feel like you were talking about your father watching the woodworking. I think, they just sit and watch. Especially, it's like almost a way to relax.
yeah.
And
Um, people want to make a boat, but they don't. So they'll watch
no,
someone else make a boat, um, build a house. Yeah, like a vicarious thing.
yeah,
And but I don't know. It just at first I wasn't into the online video and everything, but it does seem like a really good way to take control of your career and your work and showcase it. If you think about all the artists we are just talking about, like Georgia Keefe and Renoir and all these people. Um, I mean, there's videos of her talking, but like none of them had, websites or YouTube channels. So like a lot of what we know about them, I think, is other people writing about them later on. So it is kind of interesting that you can kind of set the record straight in your own lifetime. I find that kind of interesting.
and I feel like there was a mystery about them, and a lot of people writing about them.
Yeah. Yeah, who knows? I mean, the thing is they probably had great promotion during their lifetimes.
Yeah,
But that's the thing. It's like just like those letters that fade. Um, it all
that's
kind of
right.
disappears. Yeah.
Yeah, over
So,
time,
mhm, yeah,
it's kind of sad.
a little bit. But
Yeah,
I do think that that's why we study the past and we kind of try to bring it back into our own work. I think that's the one of the goals.
yeah,
Is alive the art through sort of not quite reproducing it, but channeling it,
yeah.
working it.
I guess, and to remember where it came from and to
Mhm.
propel it into the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I
I
guess
guess
that's where
just,
the patronage is so important.
yeah, because there's so many I was getting asked this, and I'm like, I will not do it. They do a lot of these, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's just it's dip and paint, like people,
Oh yeah.
and it's sometimes I think it's quick. Like you're done in what, like an hour or whatever, and everybody paints the same thing, and it's just it's another type of it's another thing, and it's a way to get people out of their house,
Mm.
and which is great. That's great. You get out and you meet people. But I was talking to one of my friends who's has a studio, and I said, it's great that you are bringing other teachers in to your studio, because I feel like there's a real need for people to get out and to meet other people and do something besides drinking.
Ah,
You know, everybody wants to go to a bar or whatever, but not everybody wants to do that every night of the week.
that's a good point. And I actually stopped drinking. I mean, I'll do it if it's like a fancy dinner or something, or a wedding. But I stopped doing it mostly just so I could like be healthier. And like we're both runners and we're
Mm-hmm.
both into like that kind of stuff. And um, I just decided like I think I don't need it anymore. Um, but you're right. Like, it's like, what do you do? And maybe if you don't go to a bar and drink, it's like, how do you meet people? So I was thinking about that recently, like, because I've read that there's sort of a dating crisis, like people are lonely or they're having a hard time
Yes.
dating. And if you're in a relationship, it's hard for you to understand that other people are maybe suffering, and apparently it's very hard for people to meet. And I wondered like how many of these art shows or art classes or sipping, how many of them are just like also just a way for people to mingle in a healthy way that's not
Yeah.
alcohol,
Because
that.
I've had like people come to my classes, the local classes, um, like date night. They'll come and they're into it. Like they want to know, they want to. It's great. And I also see like mother daughter duos that come to drawing class together. I've had two sets of those that come to drawing classes together. Um, so I just think there's a real need for that.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, that's good to point out too. It's not just a need for a romantic. It could just be like just people getting together in
yeah,
different. There's that often like look down on term, the Sunday painter, but I actually grew up doing a lot of Sunday painter adult classes as a kid, and I really enjoyed them.
yeah,
And you'd see the same people year after year, like every whatever it was Friday or every Saturday, or maybe some of them were on a Sunday, and those were wonderful and are wonderful communities. They're very lovely, and I'm glad that they exist.
yeah. Like sometimes when I book, like when I talk about my classes, I'll say, bring a friend, like make it a night out, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And the one place I teach, they actually do like a discount. Like it's not much. I think it's like $10 if you sign up with a friend.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. You hear a woodpecker outside. Cool noise.
I always like worry they're gonna like, their brains, they must have a really tough skull. But I don't know.
Mhm. And that's another thing. I think I'm on a mission to paint a lot of different types of birds as well as different flowers.
The
Uh,
one you did just recently is so colorful.
oh yeah, that's the inventing feathers or inventing
Yeah.
colors birds. Yeah. So it's a sparrow, and then I was making it into something different.
Yeah. That was cool.
Yeah, I think I'll keep doing that. Mhm. This painting here is going to have a lot of hummingbirds, and most of them are from a trip in Costa Rica.
Do you get into any to your yard? Have you gotten any?
Yeah, but not as many as Costa Rica, and I just can't
Yeah.
get. By the time you see them, they're gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we get some for sure.
I had a butterfly bush planted, but it, well, actually, I had two, and I had one and it died. So I thought, all right, I'll plant another one. And the next one died. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm meant to have one, but we were getting so many butterflies. They were beautiful. So
Hmm.
maybe it was the soil. I don't know.
Hmm. Cool. Yeah, I get a little excited in spring because there's so many different flowers to
Yep.
catch, and it's hard to stay on top of it. Right now, it's daffodils and cherry blossoms coming up, so I'll be making a trip.
When is that festival?
I think
Do you
it's
know?
already up right now.
Is
I
it?
just go whenever the blooms are there. I don't
Yeah.
do the festival things.
It's turned into a big business there.
Is that so?
Yeah. There's
People
like
pay.
a whole area over there. I guess it's near the natural history. Is it near? They have like a whole section.
Well, I just remember that they had some like overpriced beer and maybe food, and it was by the tidal basin, near the Potomac. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I just brought like a picnic. I didn't buy
Yeah.
anything. Yeah, it's nice. I'm going to do the same thing again.
Yeah. It's
It's good.
crazy.
Yeah, but yeah, we get a lot of nice flowers, and I get stressed that I'm not capturing them all. It's kind of funny. So soon the azaleas will be out, and I have to go to do those, and then the roses. I do a lot of roses this year. It feels like painting good roses is sort of very important for a flower
Yeah.
painter. So I want to get better at my roses, but I want to do
Well,
paintings with animals in the flowers. So that's kind of
well,
fun.
I think you could do rose uh workshops over and over and over again.
Yeah,
'Cause it,
that's what I was thinking. Yeah, I've got one coming up in April on the 12th in person. It's already, I think, like almost full. So maybe we'll just make another one.
yeah, because it's like it's real mystery roses.
Mhm. I went and bought a lot of bare root roses and I put them in pots this year so that I can just have more blooming at any given time. So I'm really excited about that. So I'm
You're
growing a lot.
you're prepared.
Mhm. Yeah. And of course there's always like the gardens nearby and the supermarket. So there's enough to go around. But it's fun when it's in your yard because you can like cut them and
That's
do whatever.
right. You can do what you want. It's like a never ending flowers. You
Yeah.
can just go out and get them.
Well, this has been fun catching up with you, Sharon.
This has been great. I love it.
Yeah, I feel like the time's just gone by and I've been really productive on
Yeah,
my little tedious flowers. So thanks for talking to me.
it
I
was
guess
so much fun.
yeah, we'll have to do it again, and I look
Yeah,
forward to your talks about your shows and your museum visits, and um, I'll tell you about mine next time.
yeah.
And I
And
guess it's dinner time.
it's dinner time. Gotta go eat. I gotta go feed the dog. All the normal stuff
And then
outside of my art stuff.
there's nothing better than eating, like having a nice meal after a good painting session.
I don't eat before.
Oh,
I always
really?
wait. I
Oh,
always wait. Like if I'm doing a show or if I'm teaching at night, I eat after. So
oh.
I got to find the restaurants and bars that are open late.
I work from home. I'm like a snacker, but I recently learned to make cornbread. So I have a sort of a cornbread, and I had chicken and black beans. That was like
Yeah.
pretty good. Whip up
And
something else.
yeah, mine's Irish soda bread. So
Very nice.
yeah.
Very nice. Well,
Well, Teresa, I will see you next time, and I'm going to look forward to seeing more of your flowers from your garden.
Oh yeah. Yeah, maybe we
Yeah.
can do a little show and tell
So,
next.
yes,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
Alrighty. Thanks,
Bye.
Teresa. Bye, everybody.
Everyone.